Good evening, everyone. All right, good evening. I'm calling the meeting to order. It's 5:05 p.m. on Monday, November 7th. This is the Economic Development Authority Committee meeting. At this time, I'd like to take roll call. So if you're here, please unmute yourself and say here or I. And today I'd like to note that the chair is vacant. So Alderman Bill Morgan.
I am here.
John Kelwerts.
Hi, I'm here.
Glenn Sherman.
Is excused.
And then Ace Champion.
I'm
Okay, perfect. Moving on to agenda item C, approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for today, November 7th, 2022?
I can make a motion that we approve the agenda. Alderman Morgan.
Okay, can I get a second?
I'll second. John Kelowitz.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Okay, sounds like that motion stands approved. Moving on to agenda item D, approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from June 6, 2022?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Alderman Bill Morgan.
Can I get a second motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Okay, that stands approved. Agenda item E, the public hearings. The public hearing on draft EPA Brownfields Cleanup Grant application and draft analysis of Brownfield Cleanup Alternative ABCAs for 402 and 420 South Broadway and 419 South Maple Avenue. This public hearing has been posted and public notification has been published in the Press Times. The Economic Development Authority is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or are only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. Questions may be asked during the public hearing, but will not be answered until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the EDA in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. To speak during this public hearing, you may unmute yourself at the bottom of the screen, use the raise hand function on Zoom, physically raise your hand if you're using the video feature, or press *6 to unmute yourself if you're calling in. We will now open the public hearing on, oops, sorry, did I do that backwards?
Oh, you're right.
Okay. So now I read the agenda item again.
Yeah, you're fine. You stated it, so you said
Okay.
that. Now open in the public hearing section. I'm seeing that there's only staff and members of the EDA present. I think you can go ahead, Tara, if you'd like, and ask the question 3 times.
Okay.
Like to speak.
Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Is there anyone here that would like to speak?
Let the record
Okay.
show that no one came forward.
Okay. No one came forward. So we will move forward with closing the hearing. If all speakers are done giving testimony, or if no one comes forward after the hearing is open, the chair should ask 2 more times. So let the record reflect that no one has come forward, and the public hearing is now closed. Is that good?
That's great, thanks.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so that was agenda item E. Moving forward to agenda item F, regular business. Consideration with possible action on draft EPA Brownfields cleanup grant application and draft analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives, ABCA's.
Great, thank you. So I'll take this one. I'm going to share my screen. So the public hearing that we just went through is a requirement of applying for this grant. Sorry, bear with me one second. So the city is in the process of applying for a brownfields cleanup grant through the US EPA. Actually, it's the redevelopment authority, the RDA is applying. They're required to apply as the property owner. But the EDA, as you're all aware, you're the recognized by the EPA as the Brownfields Advisory Committee. So it's appropriate for us to take these kinds of items to you, even though it's not the city applying, it's the RDA. But in any case, I just wanted to provide a little bit more information on what we're doing here. So the US EPA has issued grant applications for cleanup projects. We currently have one open cleanup grant for the shipyard sites. That was a $500,000 grant that's currently in process. We are now ready to move forward with a second application for the site across the street, known as the Badger Sheet Metal Building. This grant program, so I'm going to move my screen here so you can block. This year, the grant program comes in at 3 different levels. The city could apply for $500,000 grants, 1 million, or 1.5 million. At each level, there's not a cost share requirement. It's a competitive application process, and we're reviewed on kind of at a high level, I'd say 3 areas. One being the strength of the area revitalization strategy. You know, does our project align with the larger plan that we're implementing? Also, community need and engagements. We need to present information on neighborhood demographics, environmental justice and underserved populations, and also demonstrate that we've established some community partnerships with this project. And then third area that we'll be reviewed on is the strength of our cleanup proposal. So we're sharing information about the project budget, our implementation plan, and anticipated outcomes of this project. So yes, as I mentioned before, we had to hold a public hearing to invite the community to engage in this application. We put an ad in the newspaper. We had our draft application and materials available for public review and comments. It's been on our website. It's on the front desk, also at the front desk. And we're having this public meeting as well. We've done some outreach. I've contacted the neighborhood association in this area. But much more than just checking those boxes, I'll just say that, you know, this application is really implementing a larger revitalization plan that the city's been working on for many years. I think dating back to 2018, we started working with the neighborhood here on the shipyard site, getting that plan for redevelopment. Also working on a larger neighborhood investment strategy. We've had 2 technical assistance grants from EPA for this neighborhood. The first was the building blocks for neighborhood revitalization. And then the second one was the shipyard corridor redevelopment plan. And both of those efforts involved several public meetings. You've seen these images here. We've had workshops with the residents of those neighborhoods. So this has been part of a much larger effort of going back several years. So our specific application here is for the Badger Sheet Metal site. If you're not familiar with this site, it's 402, 420 South Broadway and 419 South Maple. It's a little under 5 acres in size. The RDA has owned this dating back to 2018, but going back further than that, it's been used as the Badger Sheet Metal Works for many years, but also for warehousing. There was a gas station on the site at one point in time. other different forms of manufacturing companies. And because of all that industrial activity over the years, we do have a lot of issues that we are aware of with PAHs as a contaminant that we've got in the soil here. Various forms of metals, we've got some petroleum in the soil and the groundwater. Also, the buildings that are on site there have both asbestos and lead-based paints. So it's a pretty complicated site for redevelopment because of those reasons. Nonetheless, we have identified a partner. Impact 7 is a private developer that has submitted a proposal for this property. They're proposing 238 mixed income housing units in ground floor commercial. We're currently negotiating a development agreement for that, but really the first step before that project can move forward is we need to get the site more shovel ready. And that entails having the city clean up some of this contamination and demolish buildings. So that is really the goal of this grant application. So we will be seeking $1 million from EPA. That would cover our costs for building demolition. It would also allow us to excavate and landfill some of the petroleum impacted soils. We'd also excavate and manage some of the soils for those other contaminants on site that can remain on site but would just need to be capped. We'd also use those funds for capping the site. So that's adding additional clean fill on top of the dirty fill or impermeable surfaces. So like concrete or asphalt to cover the contaminated soils. I'll say that this is still a moving target. We're not going to submit this application until late November. We're still putting that materials together. We're currently looking at a budget of just shy of 1.3 million. I just got an email today from our consultant. I think the budget's actually going to drop down to closer to $1 million, maybe a little bit north of that. After we identify the full project, we'll be able to submit that application and have a final budget in place. But we're thinking right now right around a little bit north of $1 million for remediation for the grant and for the grant administration. Anything that's not covered by the grant, we'd need to identify another funding source. We would try to apply for other grants to cover those additional costs. We could also, if need be, rely on the TIF district in this area, which would probably be a really good option considering we do have a lot of developments taking place in this neighborhood. The TIF is in place. We've got Merge building just across the streets, and with that Impact 7 project, we'll have some increment coming into this TIF district to help cover these sorts of costs that are required upfront. This image here on the bottom is the proposal from Impact 7. It's just a concept kind of to show you the massing of how the site could look after it's developed. They're planning on building 3 4-story buildings and also having a green infrastructure or greenway corridor along the south side of the site. And that would really serve 2 purposes. One, it would be a great pedestrian connection between Seymour Park to the west to the shipyard and Broadway to the east. It also would help capture stormwater runoff and treat it. This is the site of a former slough that was filled in back in the early 1900s. So we do have issues with flooding in this area. So adding a feature like that greenway would really help address some issues with runoff down here. That's kind of the presentation I have here for the cleanup grants. Is there any questions?
Matt, did you guys open or did you guys ask for RFPs, or did Impact 7 just come straight directly to the city that saying that they were interested in that, Scott?
It's a good question. I believe we did put this one out for RFP. It was going back a little more than a year ago, I would say, at this point. We did consider a couple different proposals. And Impact 7 was the one that moved forward. There's no other questions, then we'd like to take a vote to direct staff to complete our application and submit it by the deadline. We would welcome.
Motion. I would like to make a motion that we accept this and pass it on to be followed up. Alderman Morgan speaking.
Is there a second for that? Can I second that as a chair?
I believe you could, but I see John just unmuted.
Yeah, I can second it otherwise, either one.
Sorry, I had seconded. I had my thing still on mute. I didn't realize it too.
Okay. All right, so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Okay, sounds like that stands approved, or that motion carries. So G, informational. So the first item under that is Brownfields program update.
I learned a lot about brownfields today, so I'll keep this one especially short. Briefly just share that with our assessment grants that we have with EPA that's currently open, that's a $300,000 grant. We are out of money. We spent the last of our $300,000 here just a couple months ago. With that, we have assessed 11 different sites throughout the community. A lot of those funds were dedicated towards that Badger sheet metal site, conducting tests for the asbestos, the lead-based paint, doing some supplemental investigation of the soils so we could really get a handle on the issues there so we can move forward with that cleanup. Another major project that we've got with this grant is the former Associated Bank site on North Monroe. That one we have invested funds to do the phase 1, the phase 2, some additional supplemental investigation as well. I think we just finished a remedial action plan for that site. So that one should be hopefully moving forward very soon. But now that our funds are gone, we will be applying for a additional grant. So here in the next few weeks, when we submit our application for that cleanup grant that we just discussed, we'll also be submitting an application on this assessment grant. We'll be applying for $500,000, which will allow us to do this additional work. This is a program that developers and businesses have often relied on, to help them get a better understanding of what potential contaminants they might be facing if they wanted to move forward on a redevelopment project. We've always been able to really show good leveraging of these dollars with projects like the city deck and the rail yard. We've invested these grant dollars and we've been able to leverage millions afterward with private development to follow. So it's a good program. EPA has been a good partner in the past. I think they'll certainly continue to be a good partner. So I'll be crossing our fingers with this one. Other than that, our cleanup grant for the shipyard, we're putting those dollars to work right now. Actually, there's cranes on sites, construction crews on site that are working on the remediation of this. We hope the construction for phase 1 will be done by fall of next year. And that phase 1 is basically all the waterfront improvements. And that's what I've got tonight. Any questions?
Can you remind us of the timeline for that shipyard cleanup and the whole project?
Yes, so the shipyard project, we've split into multiple phases. So phase 1 is really those waterfront improvements. So a riverfront promenade, a marina, a fishing pier. We're going to be doing some habitat improvements for fish and wildlife. Kayak launch as well. So that is all being constructed right now, those pieces. And we anticipate that'll be all wrapped up by fall of next year is what we're currently shooting for. And that first phase will really use our entire cleanup grant that we've got with EPA. We've got a $500,000 grant with them. We've also got an additional $1 million with WEDC. So all of those funds are being directed towards the remediation of that site. Phase 2, we are hoping to get started immediately after phase 1 wraps up. Phase 2 for the shipyard is going to be a great event lawn, a dog park. There's also an urban beach, playground. We'll probably have a building constructed to house restrooms, maybe some lockers and some vending. There's possibility of having a space there that a business could operate out of for renting kayaks and canoes and that sort of thing. We are currently, we've been told through the National Park Service that we've preliminarily been awarded a $5 million grant to help construct phase 2. Currently working through the details to get that finalized and then not be a preliminary award, but full-blown award. Once we get that full green light, then we can move forward with the construction documents and we can get a timeline established for that second phase. And then the third phase is the container park. So the concept is a building made out of shipping containers that would house startup businesses focusing on food, beverage, and local retail. We'll probably be working with a partner to construct that building. And that would probably be done around 26 is what we're shooting for right now. But still lots of details to get worked out. On the north side of the shipyard site, Merge Urban Development is constructing their buildings. They'll have 225 units as well as some ground floor commercial. I believe they hope to start construction on that next summer. They've had some challenges with soils on that site that we didn't anticipate. So that was a little bit delayed so they could address those issues. I think we're actually taking that to Redevelopment Authority tomorrow to update the timeline for their project. I think they're hoping to have both of their buildings constructed by 2025, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you for that. All right, if no one else has questions in regards to that, we'll move on to number 2, the director's report.
So Neil's not with us today. He will, I'm sure, be giving us a fuller director's report at our next meeting.
Okay, so move forward with number 3. The date of the next meeting is December 5th, 2022. All right, so that leads us to agenda item H, which is adjournment. So can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting today?
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting for tonight. Alderman Bill Morgan.
Can I get a second?
I
I'll
second.
second the motion to adjourn the meeting today.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Okay, the meeting today is adjourned.
Awesome. Thank you. Good day.
Thanks,
Have a good
everyone.
night.
Have a good
Thank you.
night.
Take care.